Hey, welcome to season two, episode one of the Illinois Business Playbook. I've got Greg Urban here. Greg is the executive director of the Algonquin Lake in the Hill Chamber. Greg, how you doing today?
Doing well.
Wonderful. Well, typically when we do these, we kind of talk to folks about how their small businesses are going, but you actually bring a little other stuff to the party that I want to make sure that we're concentrating on. So if you can kind of talk to us about how you did initially kind of, start thinking about things in terms of having your own business and what inspired you to start it. And then let's talk about obviously all the wonderful things that inspired you to be focused in the chamber as you're doing.
Well, I mean, I've always had an entrepreneurial kind of bent to myself. Probably, I think 18, I started getting into paintball. And in order to make it cheaper, I got a business license so that I could buy the paint at wholesale, then mark it up a little bit and sell it to my friends and people I paintballed with. So that kind of started from an early age.
Okay.
I spent about 20 years out in the Seattle area and actually had a photography video production company that ran for a number of probably 7, 8 years, doing a lot of corporate events, weddings, multiple crews, and kind of was about 2004. It was kind of early days of a lot of digital photography. We were actually editing on site both the photography and video, and producing a slideshow to show at the reception of an event. So
Okay.
it was a very tech and labor intensive for kind of that early phase of digital and capabilities to do that. So from there, I really kind of went on into, I'd always done property management, but went into kind of graphic design marketing and helping other business owners with, their visual representation, websites, and kind of just giving ideas on ways to market, ways to partner. And that really brought me into the chamber world in a networking sense,
Mhm.
and got hyper involved in the chamber there. Eventually was asked to join the board, one of the younger board members. And then they changed the position around and threw it out there, and I applied with 40 other people and got the position, and ran that chamber for 8+ years before moving back to here and Illinois.
Okay. Is this where you're originally from, Greg?
Yeah, I grew up here on the Chain of Lakes.
Okay.
Got to the Seattle area a week before 9/11 and
Oh,
came back in 22.
oh wow. Okay. But Seattle's beautiful. I'm a music guy, so Seattle meant a lot to me in the early '90s. You guys had a little music scene happening there that I enjoyed. So, what sort of challenges are you finding as far as being the executive director here of the board? I mean, what sort of challenges are you finding that you're having to help small businesses to make sure that they can be as successful as possible?
I mean, most things tend to be the same. I mean, you have a lot of people that go into business with a passion.
Mhm.
Not everybody does the same level of research or training, apprenticing, and that's a danger point. Passion is great, but education and information really helps you to succeed. So, for all the years I've been doing this, from graphic design through running chambers, my passion's always been to really try to help entrepreneurs succeed, and bringing resources and education and connection, which is really a big part of chambers is the connections. It's the networking. It's the building those friendships, those resources that just help speed things up. It's hard to grow in a vacuum, and
Sure.
that's where chambers really kind of thrive.
And let's kind of talk about that as well. So, what sort of strategies do you typically put in place to let people be aware of the chamber, to um, make sure that others can join it when it makes sense to do so? So, what sort of outreach do you do to kind of make sure that you're growing the chamber effectively?
I mean, word of mouth is always kind of the best. When you have business owners locally that find value, they tend to share that information. Chambers, for the last probably 30+ years, have had kind of an identity crisis with the advent of social media.
Hmm.
There was, chunks of time where people felt like, well, what do I need a chamber for? I can just do everything social media,
Absolutely.
digital ads. And the reality is people kind of come back to it and they realize I need to know people. I need to, have a community, an in-person community that I can rely on. And, just in general, it's You're like, what's a chamber of commerce? So you work for the government? I'm like, no, we're independent nonprofit.
Sure.
We aren't the village. We don't make the laws, but we try to stay connected to those decision makers to be able to understand what's going on and relay that to the businesses that will be impacted. There are some chambers that are very heavily political action, and I tend to the chambers I've worked for, and my approach is generally not to be. We don't need to be there stomping on specifics, but we need to be able to know what's coming down the pike, be able
Mm-hmm.
to share that and say, hey, this legislation or this is being talked about, and it's going to affect your type of a business. Here's what we know. Here's who you should talk to, so that people can advocate for themselves. So yeah, I mean, it's always interesting how people find the chamber.
How do you find those people though, Greg? Are you just typically, what's the trajectory of events that you're having? Is there different ways that if you know that a new business has come in to play, how do you outreach to those folks?
We do find, we do get communications from villages when we've got, new business licenses or new permits that are coming in, to let us know. We see and we hear from members that are aware of things that are changing.
Okay.
We do a soft outreach. It's hard at the beginning of your business, especially if it's a new business. You're so inundated with every decision,
Sure.
every service. I have to pay for this service that pumps music into my store. I got to pay for the security system.
Exactly. Sure.
And lumping onto that at the beginning is sometimes a little bit overwhelming. But the reality is the chamber can help to shine a light when you are starting out and doing a ribbon cutting and helping to kind of give you a lay of the land on the community and who to talk to. And I always tell members, I'm like, if you can make it to a ribbon cutting, go.
Right.
There's nothing more important to that business owner than their opening. And they're going to remember the people that came out to help them celebrate. They're going to want to know who you are. And, that could be a connection and a valuable resource, for them, but also for you. And it's not that onerous to come to a ribbon cutting to take, 20 minutes out of your day to say, hey, welcome to the community and congratulations.
Sure. Now, you've been associated with chambers for quite a long time, is what you've been saying here, which is great. What sort of changes have you seen that happened when you first started getting involved with chambers? And I guess more so, like, what do you see could change in the future as far as the way in which that you're going to, effectively direct the chamber moving forward?
I mean, I think at its core, nothing much has changed. Chambers are about that in-person, that local connection. Social media has definitely had its dings at chambers where people feel like they can separate from and they can do things more digitally. But people always tend to come back to that trusted local resource and that that place that they can go and shake hands and meet people. I mean, so many chambers during COVID, there was a huge fear that post-COVID chambers would have just fallen away.
Sure.
And I did more work during COVID and just doing anything I could to help businesses, be like, hey, did you apply for the EIDL loan? They're like, what's that? Like, did you apply for the PPP? And they're like, what's that? Pretty quickly, I was able to take we had a sister foundation as part of the chamber, and was able to get $10,000 from our foundation to do B2B grants.
Nice.
So essentially, it was hiring a graphic designer in the community to build a website for that business that didn't have one and didn't have a way to sell online during COVID.
Wow.
I had a business that lost their bookkeeper about a year and a half earlier, and their books were a mess, and they needed updated books to be able to apply for the PPP and the EIDL, and just were at a loss. And so it was a way for me to say, hey, let's pay you to do work while you're probably going to be struggling to do work, and provide a service to another business who can't afford to pay for that service.
Sure.
And within about 2 weeks, the village, the city there said, here's $50,000 more. And so I had about 60 grand and did about 80 grants in 3 months.
Wow.
and I was solo in the office. My two staff at the time were both on maternity leave
Oh gosh.
as COVID hit. So it was a fun time, but
Sounds like
a time where, we were able to do for anybody. We were helping businesses that weren't members. We were just trying to make sure people could get through.
mm. Well, you kind of
And you're not going to get that from a social media ad or a promoted post,
sure.
to have advocates that can be there for those kind of times.
Absolutely. What do you find most challenging as far as what you have to do on a day-to-day basis to continue to do what you're doing in your role?
I mean, disseminating of information is always hard. Everybody's inundated with email and social media and everything else that's coming at you.
Sure.
So, trying to take, a couple, we're 330, 340 members that run the gambit across so many different industries. And it's like when there's an opportunity for a capital grant that the state's promoting,
Mm-hmm.
you can't just throw that into an email. You've got to go, hey, who could this apply to?
Sure.
It's got these criteria. There was one earlier or late last year that was around tourism and attractions. Didn't apply to us as we didn't have anything that it would be relevant for, but I was able to reach out to, I think, 6 to 8 of our members that do festivals that have, physical attractions. Mm-hmm. There was a grant for $50 to $250,000.
Wow.
And, being able to see and be in those spaces to see when opportunities do arise, and to be able to reach out to your members and let them know. There's a lot of chambers that out there that send emails once or twice a day, 5 days a week.
Oh.
And to me, that was kind of how things had worked before I got here. And I said, no, that's the way to get people annoyed at you. So
yeah,
we do a one email a week digest that has all the events that are happening for the week. What are our upcoming, multi-chamber events? Because we do partner with other chambers locally to host multi-chamber events. And then what are our members doing? So our members have the ability to post their events, post their deals, things that they're trying to promote. And we use those and actually, also disseminate those out in that weekly. So kind of a one-stop shop, and have a fairly decent open rate, from all of our metrics on that email being used. So
can you think of another moment of success in your position that makes you extremely proud? Something that really gets you going every day and kind of lights your fire?
Well, it's not a big one, but chambers are governed by boards of directors, and the previous chamber I was at, I came in at a kind of a tumultuous time, and just through steady leadership and working with your board chair, we were able to kind of turn that tide and have a more productive board.
Nice.
A lot of people think, well, the board just tells you what to do, and it's like, no. Boards generally they meet once a month. They're kind of high level oversight,
mm-hmm.
and I've always strived to educate and to try to bring as much to them and not ask as much. So developing strong boards, it's critical for organizations to maintain staff and not have a lot of staff turnover.
Sure.
And in my many years, I served on a statewide chamber executive board in Washington. You did see, boards that were not strong. You had so much staff turnover, and that uncertainty really trickles down to the business members and their feeling of stability. So I do my best to maintain that kind of stability.
Really quick before we end here, there's something kind of exciting going on tomorrow. Is that correct?
Yeah, we have our annual gala. Essentially, beginning of each year, we have our annual awards dinner, where we kind of recognize businesses from the previous year. And of course, jumping in, I've only took over here in the summer of 2023, so there's a lot of understanding what this chamber does and how we do it. So that one we're doing as Chamber Royale. It's a black tie and blackjack event with 6 blackjack tables, roulettes and craps, and doing it more of a fun, dressed up, but more of a fun, casual networking kind of lounge environment as opposed to sitting and staring at that table of 8 in front of you for 3 hours on end.
Excellent. Well, I look forward to. I'll actually be there tomorrow with my wife, and I know we're both very excited. Greg, what's the best way for people to reach out to you, to connect with you, just to learn more about ways in which that you can help their businesses?
I mean, we're always available. Our office is located in Algonquin Village Hall. Our website is alchamber.com.
Okay.
And we meet with people at their place of business. We meet them wherever they want to meet. And really, my goal is always, first and foremost, to understand, where you are in your journey. What are your pain points? What are potential opportunities? And, I never want anybody to join unless there's going to be value for them.
Sure.
And I've just never been a hardcore salesperson. But I really do believe that, the community that can surround you and is rooting for you has so much value. And being a part of the chamber just helps to amplify that.
Beautiful. Well, Greg, thank you so much for your time. I know you're a busy guy. I look forward to seeing you in person tomorrow, but I really appreciate your time today. You have a wonderful day. Okay?
Thank you, Joe.
You got it. Take care.